Only a handful of directors ever get that prestige of having their films be advertised as theirs and not the actors themselves. Martin Scorsese, Christopher Nolan, Hayao Miyazaki, to name a few. For anime fans, there's just one name that either brings joy or despair depending on who you ask. That director being Hideaki Anno. Contentious as he is, Anno is without a doubt an incredibly influential anime director, and one that has shaped and paved the way for the medium. I'm obviously talking about Evangelion. The chokehold Eva has over anime is astounding. This deceptively simple show, which was initially about a guy getting into a robot fighting giant monsters, turned whatever this is, managed to transcend time and still remain incredibly relevant to this day. Which is why it's also incredibly fitting that Hideaki Anno would eventually direct his own Godzilla film. Much like Anno and Evangelion, Godzilla has survived the cultural zeitgeist of the 1950s all the way to now, the 2020s. He remains ever more popular, with his own cinematic universe, with movies and TV shows, an anime trilogy, and another Japanese movie. Shin Godzilla, however, is somewhat of an oddity. It isn't a happy-go-lucky, blockbuster, giant monster movie that you would expect out of a Godzilla film. Instead, it's a very sentimental, political, and deeply existential movie that just so happens to feature the big scary lizard. Because it isn't a Godzilla movie. It's a Hideaki Anno movie. If you watched Eva before, either the series or the reboot movies, you would know that Anno loves to over-explain.
あれがクジラの潮吹きとでも言いたいのか。海水が沸騰してるんだ。
インパクトありましたからね。まさかゴジラに人類の8倍もの遺伝子情報があるとは。
The bulk of the dialogue in Shin Godzilla is basically the same sci-fi jargon that you see in Eva, and though sometimes it doesn't really make sense, it also makes Shin Godzilla so incredibly rewatchable. With every rewatch, I pick up on so many new small details that add on to my love and understanding for this movie. And it's something you really just don't find in the older Godzilla movies, where the science fiction and human drama is often dumbed down to simply serve its role to explain why Godzilla has to fight these other fuckers. Coupled with that, I think that Shin Godzilla has the best cinematography I've ever seen in any Godzilla film, with a mix of handheld shots from the point of view from the people on the ground, to wide shots, and close-ups that not only succeed in accentuating Godzilla's massive stature, but as well as being downright terrifying and imposing, which is also amplified by his design. Shin Godzilla's design is not really typical of the designs of the previous Godzillas, because in the Showa, Heisei, and Millennium era, Godzilla is often portrayed as Earth's savior, and therefore he can't be designed to be too creepy or too monstrous, with a few exceptions. And instead, Godzilla is often designed with very expressive eyes, and rounder dorsal plates to be more friendlier and fit into his narrative of being a hero. But in Shin Godzilla, he is here to cause chaos, and so he has these beady, soulless and apathetic eyes, his small, spiky teeth and a jaw that splits open. His body looks like it's made out of volcanic rock, with its ominous red glow. Everything about his design is the antithesis of the conventional Godzilla design that we know and love. And honestly, this whole movie is just the antithesis of Godzilla movies. Looking at this lineup, Shin Godzilla is narratively and aesthetically very different. And why? Because it's a Hideaki Anno movie.
自分が作ったアニメは好きですか？
まあ好きといえば好きですけど、結構嫌いなところもあります。
嫌いなところはどんなところですか？
自分が出てるところ。
It goes without saying that one of the key reasons for Eva's popularity wasn't really for the quality of the writing, acting, or animation, but for the numerous controversies and rumors surrounding Anno and his deteriorating mental health. Anno has a very well-documented history of depression that influences all of his works. The characters he writes always have a piece of Anno within them, especially Eva, which is to me why I and a lot of people love Eva. These moments of doubt, insecurity, apathy, despair, agony, depression are the moments that made Evangelion Evangelion. These extremely flawed characters forced into unthinkable situations trying to make do and get by with what they have, whilst the people on top play with their fates like gods, was a sentiment that deeply resonated and struck a chord with audiences. And it is something that is deeply Anno. But as Eva's popularity increased, the larger of a burden it became for Anno. Eva became the defining series of his career. Eva became everything he could think about. Eva was all he ever worked on. Eva might be the only thing he'll ever work on. Eva would be Just after Eva Q opened, I was broken. I guess you could say that I was depressed. That's what I get for spending the last 6 years of my life tearing my soul to pieces to create Eva once again. All of these thoughts, worries and anxieties created a very love-hate relationship with Eva for Anno that persisted so long as he had to continue working on Eva. And during these times of mental turmoil, especially with the production of the rebuild of Eva, an avenue Anno often turned to was tokusatsu, a genre of action films and TV shows that is characterized by their heavy use of practical effects. Besides his wife, Hayao Miyazaki, and colleagues providing the emotional support he needed, he found that watching grown men in silly rubber suits absolutely going at it was really therapeutic as well. Meanwhile, by this point of Eva 3's release, Godzilla has largely remained somewhat irrelevant. His last outing was 10 years ago, and it was a major flop. But with the new American Godzilla movie on the horizon, our favorite giant lizard was finally being talked about again. And so, wanting to capitalize on the hype and not wanting to be outdone, Toho approached Anno to direct a new Godzilla film, which he declined. There's no way I could do that. I still have to finish Eva. I can't. Eva became the defining series of his career. Eva became everything he could think about. Eva was all he ever worked on. Eva might be the only thing he'll ever work on. Eva would be I decided to take the job because I knew that if I didn't take on another new piece, something that wasn't Eva, I wouldn't be able to move forward. In 2011, a 40-meter tall tsunami washed over the east coast of Honshu, Japan. The tsunami caused irreparable damage to towns, homes, hospitals, and schools. The death toll was in the tens of thousands, with even more missing, many of whom were elderly. As if that wasn't bad enough, the tsunami as well flooded the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, which caused a nuclear meltdown. Needless to say, the 2011 earthquake and tsunami was devastating and unforeseeable. It was the single greatest disaster that Japan had to face since World War II. Though the devastation caused by the tsunami was, for the most part, unpreventable, the Fukushima disaster has always been widely criticized for being incredibly preventable. And the disaster itself is the culmination of years and years of governmental negligence and ignorance, which finally caught up to them. Sentiments regarding the government, nuclear energy, or anything nuclear for that matter, turned incredibly sour. A sentiment which bled into Shin Godzilla. And that's because, for a majority of Godzilla's history, he has always been a reflection of reality. Godzilla himself was initially created as a symbol against the use and production of nuclear weapons. After the Lucky Dragon No. 5 incident in 1945, it reignited Japan's psychological trauma for the bombs, which manifested itself into the creation of Godzilla, as both a way to cope and a way for the Japanese to showcase the terror of the bombs to those who have never felt its wrath. Shin Godzilla, much like its predecessor, aimed to achieve the same goal. But he isn't a symbol against the use and production of nuclear weapons. Neither is he a symbol of destruction and the god incarnate. To me, Shin Godzilla is a symbol of hope and change.
Godzilla! 完全に沈黙しました。
Anno places Godzilla to test how the Japanese government will react in times of crisis, mirroring the 2011 tsunami, which is why a large majority of the film is dedicated towards scenes of ministers bumbling around in office rooms holding meetings and talking about what to do without actually doing anything, juxtaposed by scenes of Godzilla wrecking the streets of Tokyo. It's done in a way that drains the audience of hope, because as the movie goes on, it becomes seemingly apparent that Godzilla becomes a nigh impossible task for the Japanese to handle on their own. Even with the might and intuition of the Japanese army, nothing seems to work, leading them to rely on the US for help, and even then, Godzilla manages to thwart them. Until Yaguchi is our main protagonist in Shin, and he is this young, naive, up-and-coming politician who's trying to rise through the ranks. At an instant, he is shown to be incredibly perceptive and far more reliable than the other ministers. But his comments and suggestions are often turned down because of his age and inexperience. But they always turn out to be true. Frustrated at how little is being done, Yaguchi forms a special group made out of outcasts, scientists, and otakus to figure out what is Godzilla and how to stop him. This group excelled because of the lack of bureaucracy and the freedom it brings for everyone to contribute and share their ideas. And they are the ones who eventually figure out a way to stop Godzilla, without having to fucking nuke him. Resulting in a very patriotic and hopeful ending about the future of Japan, and I think it's for a good reason. The effects of the tsunami by the point of Shin Godzilla's release in 2016 was still an ongoing issue, and I think Anno wanted to revitalize hope into the country he loves, manifesting itself into Godzilla. When Anno first came up with the idea for Eva, he was at rock bottom. His last project failed tremendously, and so before any of the characters were even designed and major plot points formulated, Anno built the story of Eva around the theme of not running away, which is a theme that has persisted throughout the series and is as well seen in Shin Godzilla. But most importantly, a theme that has persisted throughout his career and his life. Making Shin Godzilla such a personal and sentimental movie that is undeniably Anno.